Education is a powerful tool, but true success comes from self-discovery and embracing unique paths. In this video, you'll hear from entrepreneurs who overcame personal challenges and used their diverse educational experiences to forge their own way. From overcoming segregation in South Africa to transforming a lifelong love and passion for design into a thriving career, these entrepreneurs prove to us that true fulfillment and success come from embracing that uniqueness, discovering who you truly are, and using that to create something that you are very proud of. Enjoy.
My parents, they grew up in the West Indies, and my dad had to leave the country in his upper education. They both grew up, their parents were indentured slaves. They worked on sugar plantations in the West Indies. They had come over from India as indentured slaves. And one of the things with growing up in the sugar plantation, their kids actually got to go through the British system of schooling.
Okay.
So went through kind of O levels and A levels, and they would write exams. And based on those exams and how well you performed on those exams would kind of dictate what schools you could get to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So they performed really well, and they got the opportunity for the actual sugar plantation. They sent them to school in England. And based on that, going to school in England, they got to come back and went into a professional job, and they migrated over to Canada.
Okay.
So what my parents really gave to me was, you will go to school and you will take it very, very seriously.
That's very typical of immigrant parents, yeah.
I was really fortunate when I got to the high school age, is that my particular high school that I was just naturally sort of sent to because of my geography had an amazing, at the time it was called a commercial art program. And really what it was is a unique opportunity to be exposed to the world of design in high school, which is really rare for many people. And believe me, I know, and I've seen through my own children that, you know, it's very difficult to sort of peg a career direction at a young age. But yeah. I was exposed to this program that was essentially a university level portfolio preparation class that introduced me to the world of design, branding, things that, you know, that I sort of wasn't aware of as a potential vocation for myself. And so really what that early high school education did for me was allow me to prepare a portfolio to then go on to the Ontario College of Art and Design in Toronto, which at the time was sort of the school. It's gotten much more open now. There's some wonderful academic institutions in Toronto now, but at the time there were only a couple, and OCAD was the one that I really wanted to attend. I only applied there, and my fallback is I had all the academics for engineering, so it was really it was either a hit or miss. If I wasn't accepted, I was going to take a new career path, and so thankfully I was accepted at OCAD into their 4-year communication and design program, and that really set me on my career path to this business that I've called my life for 40 some odd years now.
So as mentioned, I am originally from South Africa. I was born there, grew up there. I grew up in a township called Ennerdale. So for those who know a little bit about South Africa's history, we had apartheid. And so with apartheid, there was segregation of where Black people and colored people and Indian people could live. And so I grew up in one of those townships. So I was part of the first generation of people of color that went from segregated schools up until the 4th grade into non-segregated schools. So you can just imagine sort of that eye-opening sort of experience, and then having a sister who was 13 years older than me, and having her sort of lived experience versus my mother's lived experience throughout the apartheid regime. So part of the first generation to go to non-segregated schools, first generation to go to university. When I graduated, I moved to Canada. And since then, I've lived across various provinces. So lived in Manitoba, in Alberta. I'm now in Toronto, spent a little stint in Montreal as well. So I've had varied Canadian experiences as an immigrant, but most of my career has been in the financial services space, where I've worked predominantly in the payment space. So I've done sales, I've done product, I've done regulatory work, all on how you as a consumer, as a business, the products that you're using to move your money, save your money, the regulation that goes into that, the policies around that. And then I've also sold, you guys who are probably watching some products if you were out in Alberta or in Toronto. And so I did that while simultaneously thinking about how I could grow my professional brand. And that's when I actually stepped into CAUFP as part of the leadership and led the organization throughout the pandemic. And that led to the creation of Black Ties, the mobile app to connect Black professionals across the globe. And I was doing that up until a couple of months ago, from which I stepped back, and I've been sort of dealing more with the other side of being a professional of color that we don't talk about a lot, which is the burnout and the self-imposed sort of goals that you set for yourself that are insane goals, and you never stop to rest and to just sort of live and enjoy life. And so that's kind of the phase that I'm in right now.
My kids are growing up. So I'm thinking about education in light of their experience. I still fundamentally believe that most education, especially higher education, but most education in general is designed for just a much narrower band on the bell curve than people imagine. Like people imagine that, if you're a couple of standard deviations out in either direction, it's not a good fit. I actually think unless you're like right smack dab in the middle, it's really suboptimal. So I would not be at all disappointed if my kids decide that they want to stop pursuing traditional education and do something else. But it would have to be driven by them. I wouldn't be disappointed if they decide they want to finish high school either.
That's the question I was actually going to ask. Like, would you wait for them to decide that, or would you kind of push them in a direction, like knowing that this is not quite working? Would you push them in the direction of like, I think you should go this way?
I mean, I generally don't believe in pushing my kids. I believe in supporting the inclinations they're already showing. Mm-hmm. So I had a conversation like that with one of my kids when they started grade 1, because they were like essentially coming from places of like, kindergarten was more fun. I don't like this. So I was like, well, let's go out to a cafe. Let's get some hot chocolate. Let's talk. Mm-hmm. And I went into it kind of fully ready to be like, look, if you don't like this, there are other things that you can do. We can explore options. We have to really take ownership. But it ended up being something super trivial. I don't remember, like, I don't like the snacks. I want to take this instead. Like, oh, fine, well, then we can do that.
They're probably still too young to be thinking about that level of education you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Growing up under African parents, the expectations are already set for you, right?
Yes.
I come from a family of scientists, a lot of doctors and pharmacists and nurses. So my parents naturally thought I would follow the same path, and be a doctor. And I wanted to at some point, but it just wasn't working. I'd be in the math class, it took me 2 days to understand what has been taught. But in the English class, I'd be the substitute teacher. The concepts with respect to English and literature were just very relatable. I could grasp it right away. But when it comes to numbers, looking for X and Y and all those figures was just difficult. As a child, that caused a lot of self-esteem. You would think you're not good enough. You think you can't measure up to expectations. Then I made the bold move of eliminating sciences from my passion, and I was like, what's the next best thing that can happen? And that was law. I loved reading. Back then in high school, I would pick up a novel, come in front of the class, and start a book club in front of the class.
Wow.
On my own. So I started paying attention to that, took a lot of art classes, decided to go into law. And lo and behold, I realized that this was where I was supposed to be. I was a very good student in law school because the concepts were very, very relatable. And I was able to convert my passion for reading to academic excellence, right? Mm-hmm. And this is a lesson for parents out there. You have to, let your child thrive and flourish in what they are born to do. the days of setting expectations and expecting a child to meet those expectations, regardless of their either biological, psychological, physiological makeup. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. That is where I am today, and my parents have apologized to me.
More because they've seen the success coming out of law, or because truly they're sorry for that.
Exactly.
I'm not opposed to the traditional route in the sense that I think it's the worst route. I just don't think it's any better than many of the other routes that are available. And so, for most people, it's probably suboptimal because, it's not that there's one path that everyone should take. I don't think everyone should start a business or everyone should, whatever. I just think there are a lot of different paths and everyone's got to find the right one for them. And so just like starting a business is not the right step for everyone, I don't think the traditional path is the right step for everyone either. So I just want people to explore and find their own thing. And I think the most important thing is that the exploration, the decision, be self-directed, right? I would rather they learn to explore and own the decision, regardless of what decision they make, over any decision that I drive them towards. I think that will serve them less in the long run.
For more insightful conversations with entrepreneurs, check out this video right here. I think you'll love it. Continue to enjoy, and I'll see you there.